settings, you said?
It's at the very bottom of the screen. At the very right, it's the last one.
Okay.
Should be good.
I gotta be honest with you. You guys are some ugly, ugly people.
What up, Mike?
Haters gonna hate.
Turn your mic a little bit down, man.
What do you need?
Yeah, that's perfect. Maybe, do you have a mute button on there? Okay, that's perfect. So I would keep the mute button on until you need to talk, because otherwise we're both gonna get echoes. I'll do the same thing.
Echo. Yeah.
Too madre.
That sounds.
Hey,
really
I got
good.
it. Look, it's working now.
Perfect. Well, we're live, guys. Nobody's watching us, so we can do whatever we want until people watch.
Yeah, but it's streamed a little bit. What's up? What up?
Just as long as it's under 2 hours.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Yeah,
so that
gotta
we
be
can
under
cut
2
it
hours. Yeah, cut it up. Cut it up. By the way, I love your guys' costumes. Phenomenal. I really love it.
I have some gold teeth, but they're in the mailbox. I don't want to go get them.
Yeah, I figured that was the case.
Nice. Thanks.
Oh snap! How is she watching in the airplane?
Who is? Oh yeah, Shelby.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Are you ready to talk about your Yankees? I just watched some of the highlights. I'm sorry, bro. It was a terrible, terrible fifth inning.
Shut up. Just shut the hell up.
I'm being serious, man. I was hard to watch.
Oh, it's extremely hard, especially as a baseball person. But I'll go into depth in a little bit regarding that from a baseball perspective. Oh my gosh, straight up gangster. So what is your costume? I don't understand.
So tomorrow is like a zombie Day of the Dead theme for the party. So I'm gonna paint and shave and paint my face, like paint the skeleton on. But then I'm gonna be like gangster.
I don't even have a response for that. I'm just gonna let it go.
I think you should.
I'm just gonna let it go. No, I have done.
You should just let go.
There's this thing called Wi-Fi. Yes, I agree. Unfortunately, my Wi-Fi.
I was just asking her. I was like, man, she's watching right now, but she's on the Wi-Fi in the airplane.
Yeah.
She's schooling me like usual.
What up?
Yeah,
Oh my god, you're
that
retarded.
is atrocious. That is so atrocious.
Come on, Mike. Where's your costume? What happened? Is your costume a bored lawyer?
I don't really dress up for Halloween. To be honest with you, I literally I was trying to think of things to put together, but I had nothing. Not one thing. So I just had my Yankee shirt. I had my hat like a typical, New Yorker, and that's really it.
Can I post that one of your nice suits?
I'm not cool like you guys. I'm not as cool
No,
as
you
you guys.
No, you're not. But that's okay. We still love you.
Yeah, I know what your
Could have gotten
teeth
some,
and your gold
vampire teeth and a lawyer's suit.
I'm even
been a blood-sucking
shut up.
lawyer.
Shut up. I have to reach Shelby. I'm even dressed up and I'm on a plane. You know what, Shelby? Okay, let me explain something to you. Right?
Oh no!
Let me explain something. This is me dressed up. Okay, I had to wear a suit 4 days this week. Okay, let me relax. All right.
We're professionals. You're supposed to be a professional.
Yeah.
Look at Ricardo's face. That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
please.
We're supposed to be
Vic,
professionals.
that's gonna be a short right there. I already see it. right then and there
Oh, totally.
with your
totally made it up.
screen freezing.
With my screen. Probably because Elvis and I are both on the same Wi-Fi, so it is going to be a little tricky.
All right.
Oh yeah, there we go.
All right, Mr. MC. Let's do this.
All right, guys, welcome to the show. Welcome to episode 4 of Almost Patriots, the podcast. This week, we got Elvis here in San Diego with us. He's out doing his thing. Mike in New York, and myself also in San Diego. A lot of good things to talk about. A bunch of cool stuff happened this week, especially in baseball. We're going to have Mike break down, Mike being a Division I pitcher. He's going to break down why the Yankees lost or what happened in the game. I think that's going to be interesting. I know I don't know anything about baseball, so that would be great for me. We have some other cool topics coming up this week. We're going to talk a little bit about what's trending, go into a deep dive, talk about legacy media, Gen Z, the two-party system, and then we're going to go over our poll results for this week, guys, which is going to be really fun. So we're trying to keep it under 2 hours. So let's go ahead and get it started. Mike, if you want to go ahead and start with your World Series, and then we can go into some trending topics. I think that'd be a good way to segue. So you let me know, Mike. Go for it, dog.
So I'll give you a perspective from a baseball viewpoint. So a lot of people have a lot of thoughts and opinions as it relates to the World Series, like Aaron Boone with the decisions that he's making. First and foremost, it was very hard to watch that series as a Yankee fan. The way that the Yankees played was just not the typical baseball all year. But there was a constant theme throughout the year, which was prevalent in the World Series. And a couple of those themes consist of hustling, lazy play, bad defensive mistakes, along with pretty much basically fundamental baseball. If you look at the first game, there was a couple of components of that game that hurt, but it set the precedent for the entire series. So when the Dodgers decided to have a triple on the ball that Juan Soto missed, in baseball, you typically are not, unless you can take a chance and make a play or stop that ball from getting to the wall, you don't take horrible angles like that. Because what happens is, I think there was one out, and basically you allow a guy going from a double all the way to a triple. So that was the first mistake. The second mistake in the game, in the first game, I'm talking about the first game, was when Ohtani hit the ball off the wall and pretty much was hustling to get a double. There was two components of that game, which of that play, which were a problem. One, Juan Soto wasn't expecting Ohtani to go to second base, so he was kind of lackadaisical and took his time to throw the ball in. When he turned around after he got the ball in his glove, he realized Ohtani was going to second, so he had to put a little more arm strength into it. But he basically threw it short to second base. But one of the other mistakes that the Yankees do, because this past year they were very lazy in a lot of portions of the game, was Gleyber tried to backhand that ball instead of getting his body in front of it.
I saw that.
And what ended up happening was the ball popped up in the air, and Ohtani went to third. Now, these two plays could have changed the course of the game because it kept the Dodgers in the game. Now, I'm not saying not on either of those plays, a base hit wouldn't have scored those plays, but it changed the dynamic from the pitcher's mind frame, because now the pitcher is working with guys on second base instead of third base. Your sequences of how you pitch to a batter completely change. So that's a problem. But the one common
Wait, Mike, let me introduce. So you're saying that if I'm a pitcher and there's a runner on second, now your pitching strategy is going to change?
Absolutely, because you can pitch in a different perspective. So it's called backwards pitching in baseball. So usually, typically at certain levels, let's say you're an 0-2 or a 1, I think most players, or should I say batters, think from a amateur level of, okay, I might get an off speed in the dirt, I might get a curveball in the dirt or something, and it's kind of a waste pitch in essence to try to get the batter to chase after it. However, in major leagues, there's a lot of it's called backwards pitching, which is you don't get that off speed, you actually get a fastball because we're trying to keep you off balance. So the game changes when players are on certain bases, when situations are different. So once the Yankees lost that first game, your momentum and your heart's out of it. The Yankees needed to take game one. That was a dagger to the heart. The second game, when they lost, that the momentum was shot right then and there. It's very, very hard to come back from those two close games. Now, you get to New York, and from a perspective, you're like, okay, we're back home. We got the fans on our side. We have all this. The momentum completely switched. Even if the fans are there, even if, you have, you start hitting the ball a little bit better, the game, it's very, very hard, especially with a team like the Dodgers, where little mistakes aren't tolerable. It changes everything. You can't give that to other teams. We held Ohtani throughout the entire series to limit it. And it goes to a bigger theme, though, in general. The Dodgers wanted it more. If you watch them play, they would hustle. They were laying out for balls. They were literally every little play that you could possibly make, they were making. And you could see the hunger was there more. Now, the Yankees this last year, watching them, they were just lackadaisical. They were lazy. And one of the biggest components was Gleyber Torres throughout the year. He got benched a couple of times because of the fact that he didn't hustle balls out. He didn't do certain things. And it was prevalent in the playoffs and the World Series. My heart, because that last game that they lost yesterday, they should have never lost that game. It was a fluke error by Judge.
What was it, the fifth inning or one of the innings where it all went to shit?
Inning.
I didn't get,
Fifth inning. So it's a fluke error by Judge. Judge doesn't make errors in center field. And when he missed that ball, it changed the dynamic. And then next you have Volpe, who, that's a tough play. People don't understand. You're going to third base. Errant throw to third base. Jazz couldn't pick it. Okay, that happens. But then the next couple plays is Rizzo getting a ground ball, Cole not covering first base. Those are things that you work all year round. Now, Cole, I think personally from a mental perspective, was kind of shot. You lose momentum. And then guess what? The Yankees score, they go up again, and then they give up, they get bases loaded, they give up a couple runs. You can't have mistakes like that in Major League Baseball, especially in the World Series against the Dodgers, who people don't understand this. You have 3 MVPs. You have Ohtani, you have Betts, and not to mention you have Freeman, who, had a very tough year, but came back in the World Series and played really, really well in the World Series. So from a New York perspective, it was a dagger in the heart. And which, by the way, the fans in New York, especially that guy trying to grab the ball out of the mitt, that was typical, that's typical diehard New York. Any advantage we try to take in the game with our fans, we will do it. And what I mean by that is if they're yelling, profanities, that happens. That's just New York baseball because that's our passion. But that game 5 took a lot out of us. And New York has a couple of players that they are bringing back. They're going to have a couple of issues, but the World Series, they had a good shot after those first 2 games, but the momentum just was too much to overcome.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what I saw, and I don't know a lot about baseball, but I started to think that the Yankees were looking a little bit like the Padres. It's almost like they kind of forgot how to hit the ball. They made a couple stupid errors in the outfield as well. And so, I got to hand it to the Dodgers, even though I'm not a Dodgers fan.
Oh, yeah.
That they played some really good baseball consistently for a couple months. And one of the things I heard, the gentleman who's the coach there?
Dave Roberts.
Dave Roberts. So he was saying, he's like, look, we've been in this spot before, right? And we've lost. And he said, because we didn't know how to brawl. And he's like, this offseason, this downtime, we really were focused on let's brawl. And so like you were saying, it felt like they wanted it more, and like he was kind of reiterating that by saying like they were, you know, teaching them to brawl, which is kind of like a hustle, right? So I did see a lot of that. I also saw like really good just management. I mean, that guy was really smart with his pitching selection, you know, and he really matched up almost every hitter in the Yankees schedule to a different pitcher or a couple of different pitchers, which I thought was really how they beat the Padres, man, as well. So it's interesting to see that like that management, that strategy really taken to fruition and winning as a series at that level of competition, right? This is not like a regular game. So I you know, being a Padres fan, I wanted to see the Yankees win. I'm a Yankees fan from before I moved to San Diego as well. So I was really sad. But you know, the LA Dodgers did really well, man. They played good ball.
Yeah. Now I'm going to give a controversial. I'm going to give a couple controversial statements. One, I watched the Yankees this past year. It's time that they get rid of Gleyber Torres. Two, I'm not very confident that the Yankees will re-sign Juan Soto. I think we're the highest bidder, which is rightfully so. I understand why he would want to do that.
Why not? Why not? Why wouldn't they sign Soto? I thought he did really well.
Yeah, but it's the money aspect. So you have the Mets, you have the Dodgers, you have certain teams that are going to be spending a lot of money. Now, Garrett Cole for the Yankees has an opt-out provision this year, which means he can opt out of his contract for more money. So that's the next thing. Is he going to opt out? Because then you're going to have to pay him, and then you're going to throw the money at Soto as well. So there's a combination there. I think the Yankees bullpen has a couple of things that they have to get fixed. And then I also think starting pitching. I think there was a couple of bright spots, but we have a lot of money in our starting pitching, which quite frankly, I really think didn't do a phenomenal job this year. I think some pitchers pitched well, but we have a guy named Marcus Stroman that didn't pitch in the World Series. You know, I think the Yankees have a lot of holes. Now, the Dodgers are going to come back very strong. And what people don't understand is Kershaw, Glasnow, they were all missing during the World Series. Joe Kelly, which was a reliever, they were missing. They were all hurt. They weren't on the roster. First of all, Kershaw, even though he's older, he's still a phenomenal pitcher. You have Tyler, who also is who's a phenomenal pitcher as well, who was injured. So the Dodgers are stacked. And the unique thing about the Ohtani contract is people don't understand this. He deferred money years later. So I think it's $2 million a year. So it's like, it's not even eating into their salary cap. Right? I don't want to say
what does that mean? What does that mean that he deferred his money? I'm kind of like a baseball nugget.
So he signed a $10 million contract, but he doesn't start getting paid on that money because he deferred most of his money until the back end years of the contract. So he only makes $2 million currently this year, and I think it's like the next 5 or 6 years. I can't remember it, but he only makes $2 million. So it's not like he's making each year $70 million. And the crazy thing is it's a smart technique because what people tax based on where you live. Let's say in 7 years, 8 years, he's not part of the Dodgers, or they deferred the contract until years after. Let's say it's a 10-year contract, but they deferred money until it's after the contract's over. He could still get based off of that. So it's a combination of things.
So
more of the story is the Dodgers are going to be very good next year.
So like he can move to a state where the tax implication is a lot less, and then when he starts taking his salary, like if he played in Texas, like that'd be a smart move, right?
Yeah. So every major league professional, or should I say professional athlete, pays tax in each state. And I forgot what the breakdown is, but if you remember when Manny Machado signed with the San Diego Padres, he had a front-loaded contract where he got a lot in the signing bonus. I believe it was because he lived in Florida, so he was exempt from the taxes on the signing bonus, which was very smart. So Dodgers will be back next year. They're going to be very interested to see what they do. But the Yankees have a lot of holes that they have to fill, and I don't know if they're going to fill them all. I don't think the Yankees are going to be they're not going to be a wash. They're going to be good because they have still a lot of great players returning, but they do have holes. And I truly believe the Yankees have to change their mindset of playing hard. I love Anthony Volpe. The guy plays hard. He runs, he slides, he's diving, and we need more of that. Same with Jazz at third base. You need more of those players. Verdugo in left field. You need more players like that.
They really wanted to win.
I think Aaron Judge really needs to step up. I mean, he played well during the regular season and was completely out of the game, out of every game in the playoffs. And then in the fifth inning, he drops a basically easy pop fly to center field because he takes his eye off the ball at the last second. That when I think back to like the old school Yankees with Jeter and Riviera Morera, they didn't make those mistakes. They didn't have errors in Game 4 of the World Series. They just handled business. And this Yankees team doesn't seem to be as, I don't know, fundamentally sound as those guys were.
So those years with Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera, Jorge Posada, if you watch those games back in the day, they played hard. They would slide into second base, try to take you out. They were diving all over the place. Paul O'Neill, they were fighting people. That was passion.
Yeah, gritty. They seem grittier.
The real passion. I feel like this game nowadays, like it was the new Yankees. I think it's a system problem right now, personally. I think it's the paying the big players. I think it's your role players don't think they're role players. Everybody thinks they're a superstar. And I think there needs to be a reset in the organization itself. Look at the Dodgers. Man, their role players were, what was his name? Lehman. Man, diving. He saved a run in one of the plays in the first, which was phenomenal. Diving all over the field. Mookie Betts made like 3 or 4 diving plays. I mean, it was just, you can see the element of who wanted it more. And it was, you could have kind of predicted it a little bit.
Right. Yeah, makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good roundup, man. So like if you had some advice for the Yankees next year, it would be clean out the salary cap a little bit and try to get some more players like those guys you mentioned on the field. Anything else? Yeah, hustler. So really build a hustle team, huh? And well, perfect, man. What do you think about what advice do you have for Padres fans? What do you think we're gonna do next year?
Padres have a couple of holes in their lineup. They have a great team. They still have a great team. They're going to compete against the Dodgers again. But the Padres need a little bit more pitching. They need the criticism with a lot of the Padres with the fans is they didn't have a lot of playoff experience with a lot of players. They've added those pieces, and now it's just coming a team and playing in the playoffs, getting exposure, understanding what October baseball really is. And they've gotten a lot better at that. It's very hard, though, because baseball is a matchup sport now. So the Dodgers and Padres, they match up really great against each other. If the Padres don't match up with the Dodgers, I think they would have definitely been either in the World Series or they would have probably definitely been in the World Series. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. When I watched the Padres-Dodgers, I honestly thought that neither one of those teams, whoever won, would beat the Yankees.
Yeah,
I definitely thought that the Padres should have won the series against the Dodgers. I thought they played better, and up until the hitting just sort of fell off the map. And I don't know what's going on in that locker room, but I thought the Dodgers were going to get swept in the next series because I didn't think they were a very good team. But they played hard.
The Mets played the Dodgers well, but you could see the Mets were riding off of momentum because what people don't understand is playoffs in any sport is momentum. You're riding momentum, and the Mets rode that momentum to NLCS, and they played them strong. But sometimes momentum can only get you so far. Talent will take you over, and that's what happened with the Dodgers. The Yankees had the easiest road to the World Series in the American League, and there were a couple of spots where I thought that you could see, like there was the Cleveland Guardians game, 2-3 games in a row where there were base running mistakes where, it was just errors. It was just, you were watching the game and you're like, what the hell is going on right now? We're in playoff baseball. Why are we still making these mistakes? and it demonstrated itself in the World Series as well. Two errors in Game 5, base running mistakes, lethargic play, fundamental mistakes. I get upset with Boone in the first game for bringing in Cortez. I think he's a great pitcher. I think he's probably playing analytics in that situation. I wouldn't have done it, but he's playing analytics, and analytics probably said Cortez was a better, a better pitcher at that moment. But still, it's just the overall approach to the game, which was different.
I mean, I think that's a good breakdown, guys. Definitely educated myself. I don't really know much about baseball, but we were talking yesterday a little bit before the game started with my buddy Doug, and he was like, "Man, I really hope it's not rigged. I really hope it's not 7 games, because he's like, the Yankees aren't playing great ball, and I would hate to see, this be all about revenue." So I'm actually kind of happy that the Dodgers won in that sense, because like otherwise I would have been side-eyed about everything just because of all the crap going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. All right, guys. Well, let's move into our deep dive here and get to some of our topics.
Bum, bum, bum.
I gotta change the music too. Let's move into the deep dive music.
I don't hear any music for the deep dive.
I can hear it. It's
Now I can hear it.
It's elevator music.
It's hip hop, bro. Hip hop. All right. For the deep dive. All right. Today we got a bunch of. It's royalty free hip hop. So the good news for our deep dive and for some of our segments is that my buddy Doug is an audio engineer and a producer, and so and he's a Navy veteran and a great patriot. So I've tasked him with creating some original music for our podcast. So we're going to get an original opening song and some original flicks for each one of our segments. So that should be pretty cool. He's pretty creative. He just finished mastering and mixing my buddy Pro K's track, which is like a house track, and he's a rock guy, so he did a great job. So I know he's got a great ear out there. So that should be fun. But today we're going to talk a little bit about legacy media, Gen Z, talk a little bit about the two-party system. We're going to go over this week's poll results and talk a little bit about Russia and Google and their beautiful relationship that's just sprawling into it seems like a Tinder match waiting to happen. So lots of niceness going on. So let's go ahead and get started. I would really like to start off with this topic just because I'm interested in it the most. Chris, this is your topic. And so let's see if we can talk a little bit about Gen Z cancels their parents' votes. Chris, tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, so I was reading this article, and basically the Gen Zs are coming out saying that they are going to vote against whatever their parents vote for. And it's basically right and left, right? They're all saying that their Gen X baby boomer parents are all voting and they're all voting conservative, and so they're all going to vote liberal. Or it's just kind of silly to me that we're doing this. We're playing that. This is a topic of conversation. I can't believe that this is something that people give a crap about. It's like when I was a kid, never was I ever considering voting the opposition of whatever my parents' opinions were to somehow cancel out their vote. I just don't. It just blows my mind that we're at this point where it's still a zero sum mentality. It's still this. If you win, I lose, and if I win, you lose. But that's just not how the world works. It's kind of bothering me a little bit, honestly. Not gonna lie. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but.
Yeah, I mean, what I've noticed about specifically this election, would you mute your mic? What I've noticed about this election, or at least in general, is that I think I brought this up before, is that I'm really seeing a lot of people just really super passionate about, their ideals. But I'm also seeing this sort of existential anxiety, right? That happens whenever something is presented that's contradictory to what somebody thinks, I mean, and this is carte blanche for everybody that I've talked to. It seems to really trigger people. And and I understand that people are passionate, but I think that because of maybe social media and the ability to like get out there and like say something and then have it affirmed by complete strangers or robots, has inflated the individual's voter sense of importance. Now, it is very important that you vote, but you are one of 350 million other people. Okay, so if other people are going to vote differently, and it's fine, that they do that, but there's no way that it should turn into a religious dogma where if someone isn't voting on the issue or doesn't believe the same thing on the issue, that now we're going to, what are we doing? We're going to start putting up the crosses and start stabbing people. I mean, and that from a behavioral standpoint shows fear. So if you blow up when somebody says something contradictory, like, I think you're scared. That's what I think. And usually that's the case because I don't care. I mean, I have my opinions and you guys do too, but everybody else is entitled to have their own opinion, and it's just a discussion. And I think part of this existential anxiety exists because we're not having, or we've forgotten how to have discussions. And a discussion means that somebody else is going to have new information. A discussion is not a verbal masturbation session where everybody's nodding, yes, you're right. That is called, what do they call it? An echo chamber, right? And so with social media, especially with these like Reddit and Twitter, you can go down the echo chamber rabbit hole. And I think that's going to be important for all Americans, and I don't just mean election information. I mean all information, health information, international information, to go ahead and do your own research now that we have so many different outlets, and spot things that are trending. If one publication says something and then another one says something different and then something different, I mean, that's actually very healthy, and I think that's what's going to drive discussion. I also think that a discussion should be taken for what it is, which is words. Okay, like nobody's coming up to you and punching in the face, and you shouldn't get angry at your friends and family because they have difference of opinions. In fact, it would open up a chance for you guys to bond more by having healthy discussions, without yelling and screaming and throwing things at each other. And maybe, hey, look, this guy doesn't understand. That's great. My dad said something very positive to me, and we used to fight like cats and dogs. And he told me, he said, son, I know I haven't showed you this, but he said, you should always win with the argument and not your voice. Okay. So I think that that's something I'd like to sort of put out there and say, have healthy discussions with your friends and family about everything, but win with your argument, right? And not with your voice or your passion, because I can be passionate about a lot of things. And if you want to have a passion contest, I'm going to win. So like what I would like to do is have people have a contest.
You are going to win?
An argument contest. Yeah, I'm very, very mellow.
I hold my tongue half the time and my fist when you're speaking. So I want to control myself. So yeah.
Right. And that's how you win. That's how you win. Yeah. I mean,
so
go ahead.
I was gonna say, what do you guys think about, because this is a TikTok trend, right? So that's where this whole thing started. This all viral TikTok trend. So what another thing that bothers me about it is we can't tell whether or not it's Chinese influence, because essentially what we're doing is we're manipulating people's opinion about how the election is going, right? So was this an organic movement that just happened because some Gen Zer, thought it'd be cute and post a video and then it went viral? Or is this something that was like Chinese AI generated that caused a bunch of Gen Zers to go out and blow up TikTok? And that's what is kind of frustrating about our current what?
Wait, did you just say TikTok was used to manipulate people? I can't believe that.
Oh, wow.
Mixing an application with like TikTok with politics is like getting a political phone call after being administered methamphetamine and alcohol, right? So like you're already doped up, man. All right, because you're like whatever it is, it's a dopamine fix. And so, like,
The
I don't know how
hell
many of
did
us.
you just say?
No,
Yeah.
nobody
What
knows.
the hell did you
So
just say?
TikTok is a dopamine.
The new
fix.
comma,
Yeah.
Rico, the new comma over here.
Yeah, so so TikTok is a dopamine fix. Is why I don't use it. I'm telling you from a behavioral standpoint, it's like smoking weed or drinking or anything you want.
Yeah, it
And
is.
so when you're already in that sort of like doped up state, you're getting high off all the dances and you're getting all this new information. Oh my God, I learned so many things about life in 15 seconds, right? And then they throw in a political ad or something like that. I think that's very insidious. I don't particularly like that about the
Yeah.
TikTok platform specifically.
Yeah, trends and viral trends have been going for a while now. Now, the issue that I have with it is, are you trying to cancel your parents' votes because you actually disagree, or are you just trying to be part of a movement to say, I'm part of a group and doing something as part of the group that's making a change? Because a lot of people join these groups just to say, I'm part of a group, and they look at themselves as having a moral high ground. Saying, for example, I did something to change, or I had a cause. And I think it's an individual insecurity with a lot of people. That's why a lot of people do these viral trends. Now, there's some good viral trends like the cancer one, ALS, and all that, but then a lot of horrible ones where it had to do with, the trend where you can steal a car. It's just to say I did it. And in this circumstance, it's the same way. I think it's just to say I'm part of it. I think it's to say I did something, and hey, guess what? Hey guys, I did it. I'm here. Look at me. And then they post about it. So I don't think it's a good thing.
I mean, it also speaks very loudly about the overall sense of meaning and purpose that the generation is feeling. If you're not feeling any kind of purpose or meaning, and you get, my buddy Jeff likes to say, and you're in this post-scarcity where you have like information and food and sex all in the palm of your hand, right? And earning and money, like there tends to be this sort of search for meaning, and behaviorally, people who seek these types of high intensity high stimulus activities are usually traumatized, right? And so like maybe the real question is like, has the past 10 years completely traumatized two generations of Americans so that they have to resort to taking orders from a phone to go steal a car to feel some sense of being alive?
Well,
Or is
FOMO,
it social
FOMO, man.
engineering? Yeah, or is it social engineering?
Well, yeah,
it could
there's a
be
lot of that,
social
for sure.
engineering. So I think it's a fundamental problem within an individual, and it's also a societal thing. We shouldn't be allowing certain things to happen. For example, TikTok should not be showing or having viral videos going where people are shown how to steal a car, and they go out and steal a car and then they post it. I think there's real fundamental problems with that. Now, this is expression based, so I'm never going to say that you should take it down, but I think it's the internal person that has to look in the mirror and say, why am I doing this? Why am I following this? How did this become an algorithm on my phone and my feed? Those are things that you have to look at.
So like a little more self-awareness and say like, hey, why am I drawn to this?
Yeah, like why am I the only one not dressed up in a costume? It was because of a viral TikTok from that said that you shouldn't be like your friends.
I think
On
there's a
I
lot
think
more.
Mike was hurt, at a younger age. Maybe he didn't get the Snickers bar in his Halloween candy, and
I got the Snicker bar. I
he's
used
been
to
taking
dress
it out.
up.
He's been
Yeah,
taking
but-
it out on children ever since.
Mike has
I
like
had two.
15 brothers and sisters, so he probably had to
Yeah,
split
I
that
have-
Snickers bar with all
No,
of them.
so I'll give you a great story. So I have two brothers around my age, and when we were younger, we would go around and we'd go to every neighborhood possible. We would come back with pillowcases full of candy, and then what would happen? My dad would steal all the candy. He would take it, and we'd wake up in the morning and be like, where the hell did like those 6 bags, pillowcases of candy go? And you know what he would leave us? He would leave us the Twizzlers, not the M&Ms.
He's doing
the
you a
Twizzlers.
favor. He didn't want you to get addicted to sugar, man. I mean, he was doing you a favor.
Yeah, you ended up being a Division I baseball player. I mean, come on. So
Yeah, I could have probably used some candy because in college I was pretty skinny.
yeah. I mean, me and my siblings would go around, and we would bring like 3 or 4 costumes in a backpack, and we would put the backpack with costumes in the bushes, and we go around the neighborhood, and then we come back and we switch outfits, change the costumes, and go back around the neighborhood, and we'd do that like 3 or 4 times until we got more candy than we knew what to do with, and then my mom would do the same thing. Like she would take it away from us.
I feel like that's going on with voting right now.
Yeah. So the worst was when the people put the candy out in like a basket, and they were like, "Take one, please." And
Oh
we
yeah,
were-
yeah.
No. We were the type of kids that we took the whole. We took everything.
Dump the
And we
whole
left
thing in
the
your
candy that
backpack.
we did. Yeah, we left the candy that we didn't like. We were just
And
like,
you would
"Screw
turn
this."
around, there'd be like some innocent little 6-year-old girl, like, and you'd be like,
and you'd be like,
"Not my
"They
problem.
didn't leave any candy."
Get your own
No,
candy."
I would always say, no. I would always say they didn't leave any candy out. They're all out.
Of course. No regrets, right? No regrets.
None whatsoever. None. Hey, Rick, your tooth fell out.
My gold tooth keeps falling out. But at least I got it, man.
Hold on. That is
We got
criminal behavior. I
Agreed.
know.
Agreed.
It is. And I have no regrets. I will take that candy every day of the week.
Shout out to the chair bear in the chat. Thanks for tuning in. She's right. We are. I think we're what's wrong with America. That's why we're not wearing angel suits right now. Right?
He's wearing costumes.
Yeah, at least we're wearing costumes. I mean, but let's. I'm gonna be compassionate and say because the Yankees lost, Mike is wearing all black.
Oh, here we go. I knew that was coming in.
Yeah.
Funeral. It's a funeral.
And so we're gonna let him slip for this one, right? We'll let him slide, and but we're out here on the West Coast, and
I
so
appreciate it.
we can
Appreciate
pretend that we're Dodgers fans and have a great time.
I appreciate you. Very kind.
You're
I'm
welcome.
not buying any Dodgers stuff. They have enough money.
Nice. All right, guys. I want to move into our next topic, and this is another one that I'm interested in as well. This is Mike's topic. He wanted to talk a little bit about how legacy media and podcast versus podcasting is affecting the way that consumers are paying attention to news and information. Mike, go ahead and start this one off for us.
Sure. So let me
Because
ask you
his team
guys a
died.
question. Let me ask you a question. How many adults do you think get their news from social media nowadays? What do you guys think, percentage-wise?
What's the age range we're talking about here?
Oh, hold on a second.
Overall. So Pew Research Center did a study on this. What do you think the percentage is?
Oh, it's got to be over 60%.
It's actually 54%. So 54% of adults get their news from social media. Now, which one do you think is the biggest platform that they get it from?
Unfortunately, it's probably like TikTok.
It's actually Instagram. So that's about 20%. But there's a huge discrepancy.
That's like the platform that's not about news. That's the platform that's about, hey, I went to the gym for 2 weeks, look at my ass. That's what that platform is about.
Yeah. So now there's a huge discrepancy, which I find is very interesting between men and women, though. So men get 62% of their news from Reddit
From
or
Pornhub.
X, which was X, or formerly known as Twitter, and women get 62% of their news from TikTok. So it's interesting now. So I look at legacy media nowadays, and I don't really turn to them anymore for the news, to be honest with you. I think one of the biggest problem is a fundamental trust from people. I feel like it's not journalism anymore. It's activism. The problem is they try to say that there's no political bias by every, station, but there is. Everybody knows Fox News is right wing. Everybody knows CNN is left wing. I think if you come out and you say that and you're more open about it, people will trust you more, but that's not the case. So this election is very interesting because it's taking a different turn. You're seeing a lot of these candidates, especially Rogan and Vance, doing podcasts, which is interesting because you're hitting a lot more people and a bigger demographic. So I think it's changing. I think podcasting is going to be the next big thing.
If it already isn't, Chris, how do you feel about this? With when it comes to getting like candidates on there,
I think it's open. Those long form discussions are a huge thing. I think people are paying attention to it more because some podcasts are neutrally biased. They bring people from both sides on to talk about topics, and I think that's the most honest way nowadays. Now, don't get me wrong. You have podcasts that lean one way, and you have podcasts that lean another way. But I think the legacy media is really hurting itself, and it's also the times changing. People are not watching TV as much. People are not tuning into CNN or Fox News as much. And if there's not an equitable distribution when it comes to news being kind of reported. It's one-sided. You can see it being one-sided. Chris, go ahead. I'm sorry I cut you off.
Oh no, you're good. No, so we Ricardo and I have gone down this rabbit hole like many times, and one of the problems is that media organizations are not media; they're entertainment. So they have licenses for like media, but they're essentially an entertainment company that says they're a news organization, and so they are not held to any freedom of the press requirements. They're not protected by freedom of the press. They're protected by freedom of speech. So they can say whatever they want as long as it's not slander. There's obviously a few laws that you have to abide by, and so they can get away with whatever they want because there's nothing keeping them from saying whatever they want. There's no rules. They're freedom of speech, and until we start holding them accountable, if you are a news organization, then you have to tell the truth, and if you want to be protected by freedom of the press, you have to be registered as media or press or whatever, however you license it out. And then if you lie, then you're held accountable. But that also goes back to the whole, we've talked about this all kinds of, where's the enforcement mechanism if they don't tell the truth? Because right now there isn't one. They lie all the time. We've seen they retract their statement. And it used to be back in the day that they'd have, most of the time they would get, 3 sources to verify. Here we go.
Hey,
say something.
They got like 3 sources or whatever to independently verify some information. And if, it's an SMR, nice. Rico, stop pushing buttons. And now they don't do that. They just throw stuff out because they want to manipulate whatever outcomes. And whatever the overlords are whispering in their ear to tell them what to say, and they just blurt it out, and then they, we were, wrong. And it ends up being like, hey, apologies, we were incorrect, and it's like a ticker symbol at the bottom of the page, and that's like the end of it.
Yeah,
but it's a generational change.
Absolutely, definitely. And then one of our polls, I know we're going to talk about polls a little bit later. We'll probably just like prop it up and then let people know where they can take the polls for next week. But one of our poll questions that we posted here, and I was trying to get the image up, but I've been super busy, so I wasn't able to do it before the podcast, was would you support a law that would require news stations to remove their entertainment classification and only report verified news facts? And we got 100% yes. I mean, everybody that took the poll, so there wasn't even a no. And so if anything, I think awareness on this topic is one of the most important things. I remember being going to the coffee shops here in Little Italy, San Diego. It's a gorgeous little neighborhood, and I had some buddies that were all retired, and every day we would sort of talk about the news. It was a wonderful discussion. And one day I was laughing at something that was, misinformation, and these guys were really shocked, right? And so one of the things that I did was show them how all the news networks, except for like 1 or 2, were classified as entertainment, and they dropped their coffee. They had no idea that they were consuming information with advertising, thinking that it was actual fact, and that these companies have a very big leeway on what they can say and fuck up because they're actually entertainment. So what you're watching can be considered fiction. So be very, very careful as you take in anything from your TV and social media too, or whatever. But everything that you see on a mainstream channel is classified. If you have it on your cable box, including your freaking local news, right? that's an entertainment classification. So they have a big leeway to create fiction. And this may be one of the big problems as why information is so diluted.
Yeah, the case was New York Times versus Sullivan, is the Supreme Court case that gave businesses freedom of speech. So they don't have to. They can lie to you all they want. There's nothing stopping them.
Well, there's an element to that. Yes and no. I don't know if you've recently seen Fox News that was hit with something because of them pushing a narrative over, I believe it was the election, which they got in trouble for. So it goes to a certain point. But going back to it, I think it's a generational change, though, just in general. Legacy media is more so towards our parents' generation. Social media is our generation. Ricardo's like 10 years, 15 years older than us. So he's still in the legacy media generation. But no, it for us, social media is so prevalent. That's where your attention is 90% of the day. So that's where 90% of the people, it's going to come across the screens, the algorithms, all of that information is going to come through. So I think, though, the legacy media just in general is dying. I think, not as many people have faith in them anymore. I think it's heavily manipulated for a certain narrative. I think one of the funny things is I don't want to get into politics too heavy, but one of the things was recently Trump decided to drive around in they started calling it the Garbage Force One, which was the garbage truck. And
the Garbage Force One.
Yeah, he was trolling Joe Biden because Joe Biden basically said anybody that supported him was garbage. So one of the things was on X, Garbage Force One was trending. And then all of a sudden you go to certain websites and it's like, this is not funny. This is, people are spewing these narratives that think it's negative that he's doing. And then you go to another network and it's hilarious. It's great. So you can see the divide between the media companies. Now, if you looked at social media though, and you looked at all the memes and you looked at how people were reacting to it, it was just a completely different environment. And I think that's why people are gravitating towards social media more, because if you want to follow a certain page's political viewpoints, you follow it. But you're still also showed other things. You're still also showed memes. You're still also showed your friends' opinions about it. And it's just a different world. It's a different world on that. So I think it's going to change. Legacy media will always be there. But unless there's a revamping of the fundamentals of each individual company, media company, I think you're going to see it dwindle more and more and faith be lost more and more.
So, Mike, being with a legal background, is there any type of policy that comes to mind to you as a legaltician that might be
not a word?
Might be.
I don't think that's a word.
It is now, motherfucker.
Definitely not a word.
It is now, motherfucker. Hey man, freedom of speech. Is there a
policy?
Yeah, what is there something we like if whoever got elected called you up and said, "Yo, Mike, we really want to clean up mainstream media. Sorry about the Yankees. Can you give us a policy that will help?" What would you say?
So from a legal standpoint, they're not going to be able to do it with the legality. Because companies are able to do, they have the freedom of choice, the freedom of speech, they're allowed to do that. It is be hosted onto the company themselves. The companies themselves have to make those changes. Like one thing I have to give credit to is Washington Post, where Jeff Bezos turned around and said that we're not going to endorse a candidate. We want to go more neutral. We want to get the trust back with the audiences. And I think that's the right approach. Now, some people disagree. There were 250,000 people that canceled their subscriptions. I believe it. The editor-in-chief quit over it. But I think that's the right approach. I think you have to go back to basically being neutral. You have to give the facts in a neutral way and let people make that decision. Now, it's different. Now, if there's something blatantly false, blatantly illegal, blatantly one-sided, it's okay to write about it being one-sided. Like, for example, if there's a trade deal that, the government is saying, no, it doesn't do that, but the legislation in that deal, that agreement, it basically shows that it is a certain way, then it's okay to say in that perspective, based on that agreement, no, it's going this way. But for you to turn around and manipulate facts, that's a completely different thing. I think it just needs to be more neutral. You're always going to get people, but that's the reason why you have that's why you have opinion based pieces. It's opinion. It's how people feel. They're able to write that. That's how they feel. That's what they're dictating. But you can't you can't report on something and turn around and say, no, we're being neutral. But when you read the report or you read the article, it is clearly one-sided and it's from a certain perspective, which, it could be interpreted in a different way. So I think from a legal standpoint, unless you're really blatantly false and there's no able to verify or check it, then I think that's a problem. But you still have the freedom of speech.
Well, I think part of the problem is it's businesses versus people, right? So if you're a journalist, you have to be registered as a journalist with press credentials if you want to go and report news from the White House or whatever. But if you're CNN, you don't have to get the same credentials. You have an FCC license that says but you're not held accountable. They're not held to the same standard.
So
There's
it's
no
like
enforcement.
like a money game then. So it's about money.
Because I can totally get in trouble as a reporter falsely saying things, independently. But if I'm CNN, I don't get in trouble.
Well, you do and you don't, because what ends up happening is the corporation themselves have to make that determination. They have to stand up. They have to turn around and say, this is blatantly false. This is wrong, and hold individuals accountable. Just because you're under a corporate umbrella doesn't mean that makes it all right. And that's the problem. We're allowing people to get away with things when they shouldn't be getting away with things. The same way we hold corporations accountable for doing criminal acts, or they do certain things. That's why we hit them with fines. That's why some companies get broken up because of monopolies and stuff like that. So it all starts from the top. And I really hope in totality that there is a refundamental, correction to these companies, because it has to get back to the middle. And you can't have the media and the people having no trust in the media. That's a major issue. And I think it's hitting its head because everybody's going to the alternative routes because they don't trust these companies anymore, these media companies. So we'll see what happens.
Well, the problem with that is that they're seeking sources of opinionated, like what you're saying, they're opinionated, but they're not using that disclaimer like at the beginning. So you see like all these talking heads on TV, and they say things, and people take it as gospel because they're famous, but they're not saying, hey, look, this is my opinion, this is not fact, but they're stating it as fact, but it's implied. And then people just run with it, and then it ends up viral, and people are like, "Oh, that's the truth. There's got to be whatever." But it was his opinion, but you just took it as fact.
That's a really good point. I like that concept of like, one of the things that I used to tell people a lot is because the United States is big and it's very media oriented. Is like, every society has celebrities, right? And so ask yourself when you're listening to someone, why are we celebrating this person? Because that's what celebrity means, that we as a society have chosen to celebrate this person. And, when it comes to opinions, I feel like I like to say the surgery metaphor, right? Well, like, do you want a surgeon that knows what he's doing but has a different political opinion than you? Or do you want someone that has the same political opinion than you that doesn't know what he's doing in the surgery, in the ER? And so when you're taking information in, I think it's important for yourself to ask, why am I celebrating this person? Is it because they are known? Are we celebrating them for delivering consistent information? or am I celebrating this person because they shake their booty? And the two don't have anything to do with each other, and neither one is wrong. You should celebrate for whatever you want, but don't take legal advice from somebody that doesn't know anything about the law or is celebrated for doing something completely different. And I think the crossover and the mismatch there is really, really hurting a lot of the information that's being put out there.
Well, they're only listening to people that are in their own echo chambers. And so that's the problem. I mean, they're not getting outside information from other people's opinions, because whatever side that you're on, right or left, that you're basically excommunicating the opposing argument because you disagree with it. And so then you find yourself in this little world where everybody's saying exactly the same thing that you're saying. And so there's a very big, juxtaposition between your viewpoint and everyone else's viewpoint. And it's kind of sad, honestly. It's really hard to see some of these people. I've seen like highly intelligent people that say things that you're like, what? No, that like, who are you talking to? Because that's not mainstream opinion. That's like a very microcosm opinion of some, silly thing, and it doesn't really matter. And it's fine. You can have that opinion if you want, but you might want to, like, I don't know, reach out to somebody that that might not agree with everything that you say and see how they feel, and maybe it's very likely to be different.
And most of the people that I like to talk to, I talk to them because I know they have differing opinions, and I want to keep my own aperture nice and wide so that I can take in. Because the minute that you think you know everything, that's the minute that you stop learning, and that you're really just kind of killed yourself as a leader. Right? Because, the environment and people change constantly. There's billions of people on the earth, and we're all super connected. And the reality that we woke up to could not be the same reality that we go to sleep in. And so for you to say, hey, look, I know everything, this is the opinion, it's the right opinion, I think is dangerous just to the individual. And it makes me a little sad, because I like to see more people become more open-minded. I know that I've benefited greatly from calming down and being a little bit more open-minded. And sometimes when you feel triggered, what I've learned is to say, okay, well, why am I triggered? Why is this affecting me personally? I'm not ready to give a response yet. Let me process this so that I can understand what it is about this that scares me, that makes me want to be defensive. And I know it's not easy. Right. And I'm not saying, I didn't say do it overnight. It took many years to try to do that. And I'm not perfect, but it has helped a lot. And it also helps me sort of have less of an abridged life. I mean, if you're going to be tunnel visioned, then you're going to have a tunnel of experiences. And there's going to be all sorts of experiences on the left and the right of that tunnel that you may enjoy and you may learn from. And so, it's almost like, why would you close yourself off to all of those things? So.
Yeah, so I posted that on Twitter like a few months ago. It's the moment that you think you know everything is the moment you become obsolete. And it's nowadays you can't, it's impossible. There's no way, there's no way you can know even a fraction of what's happening, because it's fluid, everything's changing constantly. And I used to be a crazy, right-wing conservative Marine that had, I lived in an echo chamber. I believed what I heard, and it took me, a long time, like 5 or 6 years, to sort of climb out of that sort of tunnel and, accept people's thoughts and opinions from, opposite viewpoints. But ultimately, the change had nothing to do with political, opinion. The change came from, taking a really hard look at myself and starting to fix, what I needed to fix. And that allowed me to then see my error. It had nothing to do with whether or not my political viewpoint. I literally had to go to the desert and find Jesus and come back.
So-
and then, sorry.
He didn't
So
really
let me ask you a
find Jesus, but he went to the desert like Jesus.
So
Whatever.
you had to look in the mirror and kind of identify certain things for you to change. So let me ask you a question. When you look in the mirror, when you put on that disgusting costume, and nothing set in where you were like, I should go change now?
No, I literally there's a Dodgers T-shirt under here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, go Dodgers, go Dodgers.
Touche,
You walked
good
right into
comeback.
that. You walked right into
Good-
that.
I walked right into it. I walked right into it.
Well, so it was a long time coming. I mean, it was like slowly.
For the Dodgers
sort
to
of-
win? Is that what you're saying?
No, well, yeah, a little bit, but no, it was like slowly sort of stupid things. You know, I just started noticing issues in my life that I had kind of did habits that I had created that I thought were healthy, and then because I had escaped from the turmoil that I had put myself into, got lower my cortisol levels, and then all of a sudden I realized that's a terrible habit. That's like not healthy at all. And then once you start going exercising more, started focusing on my health, sleeping more, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and then all of a sudden I had the bandwidth that I never had before to start processing all of these things that I was like, oh my God, like, why would I have that opinion? I remember one day I was thinking to myself, like, I'm basically, my assumptions are based on my crazy conservative viewpoints that I had, a while ago, was like that the other half of the population is retarded. And that makes zero sense. What did I say? Anybody that deals in absolutes is a crazy person. I was a crazy person.
Welcome
At least
to the
you're honest about
non-crazy side. It's more fun to be crazy. I like being crazy.
Yeah. I think it's just life experiences, to be honest with you. I think it humbles you a little bit more and makes you think a certain way. I think it's environment also. I think some people are not exposed to certain environments, so they have that thought process. But I fundamentally put it on life experiences. Life experiences allow you to kind of see things from a different perspective. Like if you grew up in one area, you were never exposed to certain elements like projects. If you're never exposed to mansions, you're never going to understand. You're never going to see it. If you never talk to those people from both worlds, you can never see their perspectives on things. You're only going to see your own perspective. So you having the ability to have constructive dialogues and conversations with those individuals help you become more worldly, to say the least. So yeah, I think it's overall times, just individuals. You can't be one way. You have to take into perspectives everybody's thought process. You could be so fundamentally hard pressed on one topic, and you need to have conversations with other people because you need to understand their viewpoint and why they feel that way. And maybe you can change your opinion. Some of those things you won't, but still hearing that other person talk about it from the complete opposite avenue makes you understand why they feel that way. And you can see both sides of the argument. That's why I think the two-tier system is good and bad in certain perspectives, because you need to have both sides. Both sides are not always right in everything. I could tell you right now, I have viewpoints on things and other people think my viewpoints are dumb, but I can understand the perspective and I can see where I'm wrong. Rick, raise your hand, please.
he was just saying he thinks you're dumb.
Yeah, let's segue, because this is a great segue Mike just brought up into Chris's topic.
Why do you think I do this? Do you not see how I do it? Why do you stop it? Just let it roll into it.
Oh, my bad. So two-party system is whack. Yeah, I'm learning. This isn't,
You
I'm
spelled
not a
whack
podcast.
wrong.
Yeah, I spelled it the way that I want to spell it.
Quack, quack, quack.
I identify as a dyslexic, so fuck both of you.
That's so true. Absolutely true. Yeah, I actually thought this is one of those things that you have to have the opposing argument to whatever it is, because otherwise, too much of anything is a bad thing, right? And we've seen examples of it when you talk about political, right? Too much left and too much right. We've seen both of those. We have obviously seen communism and socialism, and most of the time that doesn't do anything good for anybody. But we've also seen extreme, right-wing stuff. An prime example is like 1920s Industrial Revolution, where essentially the corporate world ran everything, and people were getting their arms and legs cut off and had no benefits. They basically were screwed for the rest of their life. And we brought in a lot of workers' compensation, a lot of things that came in that are considered technically socialist agendas, but they're a result of too much conservative influence. And if you look at the political landscape back then too, from the 1880s to like the early 1920s, right before I think World War One, the Conservative Party dominated the political landscape. They had the House and the Senate, and I think the presidency a few times. That hasn't happened in a long time, but they definitely dominated, and you could tell that the corporations ran the world, and the economy boomed, great, but then then you got the Great Depression. So I mean, there's some caveats, right?
What goes in must come out.
That's a bathroom joke, I think, right?
Yeah, I'll bring back later. Yeah, I'll come back to it.
I think the two-party system it's a very interesting concept. I think no matter what you do nowadays, if you tried to be a third-party candidate, even if you won, there's no way you're going to get anybody on either side to work with you. And I hate to put it that way because it's about the majority, the minority, getting people to vote for you or with you, I should say, or against you. And it's just nearly impossible.
It's the only thing that they agree on. The only thing they agree on. The only thing the left and the right agree on is they don't want a third party. That's the only thing they agree on.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I look at it with a half glass full kind of viewpoint with a two-party system in certain perspectives, because you can have subsets of those systems. Like, for example, you can have the far right and the moderate rights the same way you can have the far left and the moderate left. The problem is you can't, those individuals in the system, you can't allow one segment of that to overrule, because the fact is not everybody feels that way. There could be policies that you can feel are very progressive or very far right, and you need the other people in the party to kind of wheel you back. You need that to occur. The problem with it nowadays is there is no disagreement within the party. There's just you're either with me or you're not, and you're stuck because you're like, okay, even if I want to cross that aisle right now, I might put my political aspirations, my career, my family at risk here, because I might lose and I might have to go home, and I can't do some insider trading anymore and become a multi-hundred millionaire. So there's a lot of things that are at play.
That sounds more like envy than
I think
than righteousness.
But in fairness, I think if you look at our system compared to a lot of the other systems around the world, we've had this system for so long. So it's worked for a very long period of time. The problem is people in today's age have a fundamental problem with the foundation of this country and the way things are done. So they want to kind of rip it down in a lot of perspectives instead of modify it. I'm a firm believer. Yeah, our system just in general, I think there's a lot of issues and we can fix it. I'm not a component of let's rip everything down and start from square one. We've been around for this entire time. It's been very good. We've been profitable. We've had one of the highest levels of people that are not in poverty. We have basic needs, that like everyday needs that everybody has. You have the opportunities to travel. You have the opportunities to eat. Other countries are struggling to find food, to feed individuals. Other countries, healthcare is a massive, massive problem. In our country, yeah, you might have issues with healthcare getting certain surgeries, but if there's an emergency, you can go to a hospital and they are forced to treat you, whatever that emergency is. And there are social programs to help you to get the healthcare you need. Whereas in other countries, the healthcare systems are just non-existent. So do I think there needs to be modifications to the two-party system? Yeah, I think there needs to be. I think there's elements of it that we can work on. But am I a strong believer of burning it down and saying we need 5 different parties? No, I'm not a fan of that. Maybe we stand on it. Maybe we change our thoughts. But yeah, ran over.
I got 2 points. One, first of all, I lived in Saudi last year, and women were only allowed to work basically since COVID, and women being allowed to drive was an afterthought. So women could work in Saudi, I think 2019 basically, and then right during COVID they were allowed to drive. So different. We're in a, I mean, we're in a completely different world. So if you think that this whole two-party system, which I think there's some issues, like you said, isn't working, that you can turn to a bunch of other countries where they give, like, women don't have rights, right? So my second point is Dan Crenshaw, the Republican congressman out of Texas, Navy SEAL. He wrote a book called Fortitude. You don't have to read the book if you don't want to. It's a good book if you're interested. But he makes some really good points that I had never considered before with a two-party system. He's basically saying that in the 70s and 80s, even in the early 90s, all the congressmen and senators all lived in D.C. And so their families all went to the same schools. Their wives went to the same all were in the same parties. They're all basically in non-working relationships with all these people. And so when they would go to these events outside of work, they were interacting with their children and their wives. They're having a glass of scotch or whatever it is, and there was a lot of backdoor things going on. I totally get that. But then there's kind of a shift in the 2000s where everybody started moving out to live with their constituencies. And so now the only time that they meet is when they're opposed. So they literally come to DC to sit across from each other. And the only time that they interact is when they're arguing the opposite points. And it's it's one of the variables, along with a bunch of other ones, that have sort of divided us into this us versus them, kind of what we said, this zero-sum mentality where if the left wins, the right has to lose, or vice versa. And so that, I think, has to kind of change. We need to get these people back to seeing each other as human beings, to see each other as people where their wives and their kids are friends, or whatever it takes, however you make that happen, in order for them to start being able to actually have legitimate conversations about a lot of these topics. Otherwise nothing's ever going to get resolved.
Yeah, and I just have to say, the whole thing that I took from that little spiel, which I think you made some phenomenal points, was the fact that you started driving after COVID happened. And,
he called you a woman. He called you a woman.
I mean, I am prettier than both of you, so.
Oh, wow.
Oh, we're gonna fight.
We're gonna fight. No, that's wonderful.
Ricardo, say what you were saying.
But you know what? I'm a better driver.
My car has no dings.
I care. God.
Yeah, I've seen your car, Ricardo. I've seen your car.
It's for sure.
Yeah.
I bought it to mess it up. I had bought some nice cars in the past and gotten really frustrated with the level of expense to keep them up and all that stuff. And so I decided to buy, something, that was like a classic Ford sedan, all black, just like the Men in Black, and just like, hey, if you're gonna hit me. That way it doesn't stress me out, man. Otherwise, how much time I used to spend worrying about where I parked my car and all that crap. Now I just don't give a flying fuck, dude. And it's really freeing, to be honest with you. I'm not saying I wouldn't get a nice car again, but I definitely part of the growth problem, or part of the growth process. I have just one thing to say about the two-party system. So did a little research, and some of the points I think that we've touched on here are modern points. And what I found was some cool stuff. Coming from a financial family and international finance, I started to follow the money, right? And I was like, well, let's see, what would the financial incentives be for the two-party system? And I found some letters in between some of these guys, right? And basically what I inferred, and these letters are like biblical, right? So it's like, what did I infer from the Bible? Like, who knows? So what I inferred was that the main point of the United States at the time the two-party system was established was to get away from the Bank of England, right? Which at that point was like the world's central bank, right? And
Rothschild.
Right. We can talk about all that next episode. And so in order to do that, they had to justify a currency, right, that was basically made up like Dogecoin. It was the dollar was like Dogecoin or whatever, And so what I inferred from these letters was that the two-party system was created to affirm the American dollar, because all of the budgets were set in dollars. And if you created a two-party system, they argue against each other on who gets more of the budget, and nobody's asking what the fuck is a dollar. So really what it was there to do is to create sort of this dynamic where these two parties are fighting for pieces of the budget, all in the while the whole point is to justify the dollar, and the budget was in dollars. And so it's a very interesting behavioral sort of like mind fuck, but it's a good point of view, and it really opened my eyes that, hey, maybe they needed to do that, and maybe it needs to be abridged or changed in the future. But I haven't seen a lot of successful independent candidates, make it. We had, what is it, Ross Perot and Ron Paul.
He's the only one that's been in the debate, Ross Perot.
Yeah, and all that stuff. And there's and the primaries are all weird. People are getting kicked out, like Bernie Sanders. Like, I like Bernie Sanders. I think they fucked that guy over so bad. That really kind of made me sad. And so I understand that the two-party system may have been established to create sort of the force needed to jumpstart America, but it'd be interesting to see if there are any alternatives, or there's anything that we can do to strengthen the dynamic. That really, the whole point of it is that these people are supposed to be representing the will of the public, right? And so, like, how can we get either party to, instead of arguing or running on ideals, really start to represent more of the will of the public? I love referendums. I know we've talked about referendums a bunch. My dad is from a small country, Uruguay, 2 million people, and he says, hey man, America's big, but in Uruguay, if there's a discussion between the House of Representatives or the two parties, and they can't agree, out here it becomes gridlock and the bill doesn't get passed, they ask the country, which I think is genius, right? I'm not saying everything, but like, say there's a bill and it gets voted in out of the House and then the Senate knocks it down. That's time to ask the public what they think and let the referendum rule. Okay, so if you have a bill that makes it out and gets shut down, or by the president or any of the branches of the United States American system, I think the obvious choice is to poll the fucking public and see what we fucking think about that, and then live with that decision. And if you don't like it, the next bill that you introduce, try to make it so that it'll pass. Right, and that the American people and the Senate and the House of Representatives are all on board. And I think over time, introducing the referendum as a solution for any type of gridlock would help move these bills along a little more, so we can see if they're going to work or not. Right?
Yeah, so I think, Bill, it's a ballot initiative, and constitutional changes as referendum. It's just the same concept. But just to be clear, we're talking about bills and not necessarily constitutional changes, although we would love to see both. I think it's pretty fascinating, the topic, and like we were saying earlier, Ross Perot is the only candidate that's been in the debate, right? He's the only third party candidate that's really had any traction, and then they changed the rules after Ross Perot, and so now there's essentially
what's that? A Chris Rock joke where he's like, oh, American politics are hilarious. You can get the most votes, and then you walk in and they're like, congratulations, you got the most votes. Too bad we changed the rules so the most votes doesn't mean you win.
Yeah. So the committee for debates, they have their bylaws, and their rules now say that you have to have a mathematical position that suggests that you could win. Right, and so the threshold's 15%. You have to have 15% of the basically electoral opinion, and the consensus has to be that there is a mathematical chance that you could hold the majority. And guess where they get that information from?
Polls. We should do a whole show.
And they pick their own polls every time. Ridiculous.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
And guess what? And that's what I'm saying. And so mathematically, it's almost impossible for a third party candidate to participate in the debate, which is really what legitimizes them in the eyes of the public. And like I said, the only thing that the left and the right agree on is they don't want a third party candidate to be legitimate. That's the only thing they agree on. They just don't want to give her the power. And the debate system is essentially rigged against the third party. And that's one thing that needs to get fixed. If we ever want to see a third party candidate have any success, you have to remove that either make polls legitimate so that there's actually like accurate information out there, or just remove the threshold and make it so that if somebody is on the ballot in all 50 states, they get to be in the debate, period, whether or not you think they're going to win or not.
I agree with that. And talking about speaking about polls, let's talk about this next topic here, which is my topic, my only one this week, guys, because we're going to keep it a little short, and I'm going to go over poll results. But did you guys hear that Russia fined Google like 10? I don't even know what the number is. Gazillion.
It's 20 decillion.
Yeah. Over the Google's basically they took down 15 Russian YouTube channels that, like, I think as one of the sanctions kicked in or whatever, and so now Russian court has fined them 20 gazillion dollars.
The Sicilian.
Yeah, whatever. I've dated a Sicilian. They're great. And what was I going to say? I digress.
Damn Scorpios.
Oh God.
Who knows? Who knows where the Scorpio's going?
I'm a Gemini, by the way. I don't know why. I don't know why you said Scorpio. But it's
crazy.
Geminis are way crazier than Scorpios. Let me tell you. So anyways,
I don't know anything.
So first of all, I wanted to ask Mike. Having the legal background, is this something that is literally enforceable? And like, how are they doing this, or is this just like a political play? The other thing, that I noticed this morning, which I saw before we started the show, it looks like Donald Trump created a lawsuit today, about 2 hours ago, suing 60 Minutes for $10 billion for election interference, saying that they edited the Kamala Harris interview in an inappropriate way. So it looks like we're getting some what do you call it, litigiousness or whatever you call it, on some of these censorship issues, or these sort of like, hey, we're all for free speech unless you say what we don't want. And so I wanted to ask Mike, what's the validity, and like, what some of these cases have? Do they have any strength on being enforced? And then to get your guys' opinion on all this.
Yeah, Russia's finding is very enforceable. YouTube, Google, they're going down. I'm just messing around. That's not going to be enforceable based on international law in that regards. As it relates to first, let's go back to the Russia situation. I think that's more of a political move. I think it's just a headlines kind of element to it. Russia is known for its manipulation of American companies, taking the ideas and creating those same companies in oligarchs are getting wealthy off of that. So I forgot what it was. It's not.
Wait. That's bad. I mean, that's how the entire millennial and Gen Z population is making money, I think, right? Like,
yeah, pretty much. But yeah, so as it relates to that, Russia, that's a political move, in my opinion, 100%. It's a headliner, hence why it has the headlines right now. It's so outrageous and ridiculous that we're talking about it right now, which is quite comical because it's in the US and it's basically on every news outlet, because I think it's more of satire that they put it up there, like as a joke, like, look at what happened here. As it relates to Trump, I'm not too familiar with the lawsuit. I have not seen that. I know there was talk about how they didn't release the transcript. They were cutting the interview up, and this is everything that I've heard. I haven't read into it completely, but it's basically they cut answers from other questions to make it sound like she was responding to the question being asked, and it's just a fabrication. I know that they were requesting the transcripts. Then the transcripts have not been turned over. And the reason why I think a lawsuit like this is, I don't know what the lawsuit says. Is it political? Election interference? Is that what you're saying? That's what it was under. I don't know. That's a high bar.
there was a statute that was listed in the lawsuit, in the actual lawsuit. I don't remember what it was. Like, if you're watching this, you watch this later, you can look it up on Twitter, or
Yeah.
I would say Google it, but it may not come up. Maybe DuckDuckGo it or whatever. But there was a statute that they cited.
Brave.
Yeah. So if there's a stat they're citing, there's potential for a opinion to be based on that. There has to be case precedent. There has to be, or it could be a new law where they're turning, or not a new law, a new area where they can interpret that statute in a certain perspective. I don't know the statute. I have to look it up. Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible to make an argument there's election interference under, this interview, which they're basically clearly editing. Do I think the validity of it can be really strong? I don't think so. If you're going to do this with the interview, what was it? CBS 60, was it 60 Minutes? The 60 Minutes interview?
Yes, 60 Minutes, CBS. Yep.
Yeah, but you can do that argument for so many other things. Like, Trump puts out, or he goes on interviews, and, certain people slice those interviews up to make his answers sound better. They could be long-winded answers, but they cut it down to 10 seconds, and they could turn around and the other side can say, well, we're going to sue them because that's election interference because it's not the full answer. So I don't know if that's going to be a great argument before the court. I don't know what the statute is, but
I don't think it matters.
Okay.
I think it's a
well. They have freedom of speech,
play.
anyways. Yeah, but they have.
It's just weaponizing. It's just weaponizing the judiciary committee, judiciary system. By essentially, I don't think the intention is to actually get the money. The intention is to get the public, the media. You're basically, because like if Trump comes out, I know, but if Trump comes out and says, hey, Kamala edited the video, and there's whatever. Nobody cares. Nobody's gonna even post that on social media. Nobody's gonna headline that. But if Trump comes out and says there's election interference and there's some whatever rule, I'm sure his team has identified some legitimate rule that is being potentially violated, and they throw some stupidly big number on it. That gets headline news. That comes out. Everybody knows, and now everybody's gonna be like, I wonder if what happened. And they're going to look into it.
But it's not a good strategic move, because if you think about it, everybody knew already ahead of time what the CBS did, 60 Minutes did. They knew they edited the answer. Now, if you want the full transcript of what she actually said, okay, I can see that argument. But everybody already knew this was the situation. Everybody knew what was going on. So filing a lawsuit based on that, strategically, it makes no sense. Do you want the answer? What she said? Absolutely, if they're not going to turn over the transcript. And are you going to argue based on your position that there was election interference? We already know there's a massive, massive election interference in a multitude of different areas. This just adds on top of that. So I don't know. I don't see the strategic nature of it. Maybe he's trying to set precedent going forward in upcoming elections. Maybe that's possible.
Do you guys think do you guys feel like the mainstream media has done such a poor job in the past few years that that you can liken them to the two Yankee fans that pulled the baseball out of the Dodgers glove and say, hey guys, you're banned from politics for the rest
How about we do that about the two guys that are dressed up as skeletons right now? You're banned from podcasting.
So do you feel like there is a line that there is a line that mainstream media can cross or may have already crossed that's going to get them to the point where they're not allowed to even mention political things anymore?
I don't think they're ever going to get banned from being able to mention politics, but that line has already been crossed. The narratives that Trump is a Nazi and invoking and putting up, videos. Think about this. Joe Rogan during COVID, CNN put up a video, reposted a video of him when he said that he had COVID. They tainted or they darkened, I think it was darkened or lightened the video. So he looked sicker than what he was. Colored his skin. Media has been doing this for years, but it goes back to our original point that we were talking about earlier, is the distrust. This is media election interference. I hate to say this, with media has been going on for a while. You can see it skewed one way or another. And well, first of all, I'm not a hater. Definitely not. I am not jealous. Okay. All right. The only thing I'm jealous of, I'm sorry, everybody. This is the comments. It says Mike is such a hater on the one stressed out for the holiday. He's just jealous. First of all, this
Truth.
is technically not really a holiday. It's a BS. Anyways, and I could dress up the same
How
way. I could
dare
go
you.
down to CVS and get a skeleton outfit. The only thing I'm jealous of is Ricardo's fake teeth and his chain. That's the only thing.
That's right, gangster.
And Chris's
gang,
smile. And Chris's smile.
Yeah. I'm jealous of Chris's hair. He's got some great hair.
He does.
What was I
He
gonna
does.
say?
And
Yeah.
by the way, you're burnt on your forehead. Did you go to the beach?
Yeah, no, I have been out in the sun running around this past couple weeks without any kind of protection. You know, it's never good to run around without protection.
Is that the only type of non-protection that you have had in the last few weeks?
No, everything else is not burnt. Nope, I'm good. I protect all my other stuff. But yeah,
Okay.
no. It's just from walking without in the sun for too long. I think last year without any.
Yeah,
protection.
it's terrible here in San Diego. It's awful.
Yeah, it's kind of bad for you.
What's the weather there? I'm
Um,
just curious.
It's
Oh, it's beautiful.
beautiful.
65 and sunny, nice chill coming off the ocean.
Same
yeah.
thing. I'll
Wear
tell you
long
what. Today in
sleeves.
New York today was pretty warm as well.
Dude, New York is
Yeah,
beautiful.
It was warm in Indiana when I left too. It was really nice. Everybody was outside. It was like
Nobody asked about
low
Indiana.
70s.
Nobody asked about
Yeah,
Indiana.
I
New York
don't care.
Oh man, that was
Um,
great. That was great.
So much hate over there.
but yeah.
I mentioned this, by the way, just so everybody's
Keep
clear.
talking about my Yankees.
I
I'll rip the ball
brought
out
up
of
the
your glove, too.
costumes. I brought up the costumes 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, and we were like,
Okay.
"No, we're gonna wait until the actual
Yeah.
Halloween episode." And then conveniently he was like, "Oh crap, I didn't have anything in my closet." No, you've had 2 weeks to order some bullshit off Amazon, and you chose not to. That is a choice that you made.
And if you remember,
So
he got on your case for not doing your homework on when we discussed grocery prices, right? So back at you, buddy.
I didn't get on anybody's case. No.
I apologize.
so yes,
I totally
will
missed that
admit-
text message.
Yeah, no, I totally admit that I didn't get a costume.
Forgot.
I apologize.
I know you're a
guys.
lawyer. You
I
can
didn't
say I
forget.
forgot. It's
Yeah,
okay.
you said
I didn't forget. I didn't forget. I just didn't give a fuck. I was just like, okay, maybe I could find something in my closet 20 minutes before the show started. But then when I started looking through it, I was like, I only have a Yankee shirt and a backwards hat. So I
Willful
apologize.
ignorance.
It's all good, guys. It's all good. So let's wrap it up here with some of our poll results, guys. Let's try to keep it under 2 hours. I know it's Halloween and everyone's got a bunch of candy to steal, like Mike talked about doing, and
pillowcase is worth, baby.
putting it on eBay for a profit. I think that's definitely something I've seen Mike do.
No, I go to CVS. I sell it back to CVS.
Oh, even better. But yeah, guys. So one thing that we've started doing, and if you see down here, if you are watching on X or on YouTube or on Twitch, if you follow at Media Killers, we're on Media Killers is the overall brand here that we're representing with Almost Patriots. You can go ahead and take part in some of our polls, and we're trying to do a poll every 24 hours. So like some of the OnlyFans stars, and so we're gonna do a
Wow. Wow.
All right, we're going off the deep end today.
There's two different meanings for the word poll there. Okay, people, it's two different meanings.
Yeah. Double entendre in my rapper. But yeah, take the polls, guys. Follow at Media Killers on X for Almost Patriots content and polls. You can take our polls, and we're going to review them every week. Next week, I'll have a little bit more graphics. You can see the polls and everything. We just a little bit rushed this week. So we had 3 polls this week, or surveys. I want to call them because polls kind of have a negative connotation. So one of the surveys I brought up earlier was...
Yeah, especially if you're getting one every 24 hours.
Yep, exactly. One of the ones that I brought up...
That's a dirty poll.
That's a dirty poll. Was the one about whether news stations should remove their entertainment classification. That was an overwhelming yes. This week is kind of boring because everyone voted yes for all of our polls. Our second question was, do you trust the information coming from your news channel? And that one was also an overwhelming no way. And then our original survey was, do you pee in the shower? This one also was 100% for the answer splish splash, which means that yes, I do pee in the shower. So it seems that most people, based on our surveys, right, are distrustful of Main Street media while they're pissing in the shower. And so that's pretty much what we got from the data points there.
That's
so
a great sum up.
Yeah.
Well, it's also the same thing we talked about before, where our poll questions are clearly leaning in a certain direction. So, like, maybe we gotta ask different questions.
Yeah, and if you guys have a question that you'd like us to survey the audience for, you can go ahead and put it in the chat, or you can go ahead and put it in the comments in any one of the platforms, and we're happy to proliferate that out to our enormous, gigantic audience that we have.
Hey, 3,000 views this week, baby! Woo!
Yeah, good work.
To the moon.
Got over 3,000 views on YouTube on our content, so we're really happy about that. Getting some new followers and everything. So hope everybody enjoys it. That's going to wrap it up for us today, guys. We're at about an hour and 40 minutes. I do want to thank both Mike and Elvis for joining me every week. Everybody else for listening and putting up with our really bad dad humor. And hopefully nobody was offended. And if you were, then go fuck yourself. But
Houston 500 repeat.
Pretty much. Yeah, you can change the channel at any time. It's a free country. But be safe, guys. It's Halloween. So be safe if you go trick-or-treating. And mostly
Steal all the candy.
Steal the candy and try to be.
Don't leave it for little kids.
We have
pumpkin pounder day.
Right. So next week, we're gonna be here on Thursday, and that's gonna be we're gonna have a new president, or we're gonna have a new one. It's definitely not gonna be Biden, and so there's gonna be plenty to talk about next Thursday after the election. And we haven't decided yet whether we're gonna do an election night play-by-play. I think Mike said he wanted to do that. We'll all vote.
Yes.
It may be a sort of off the cuff, listen at your own risk type situation. So I think that might be fun. We'll let you guys know out there if we do that. But in the meantime, go to Twitter, follow Media Killers on X, Twitter, on Twitch. You can follow Media Killers TV. You can see us every Thursday. And on YouTube, go to the Almost Patriots podcast and go ahead and subscribe and follow us for updates. We're also releasing a lot of reels throughout the week. Chris has done a great job with that, and with his skills, I've been doing really well, getting a lot of views. And if you have any questions for either one of us, put it in the chat, and we will try to get to it and answer it if we can. Other than that, as always, guys, be safe, take care of each other, and God bless. All right.
Go Dodgers.
Go Dodgers.
Nobody asked you about the weather in